NASCAR's fan favorite Chase Elliott wins at Bowman Gray Stadium, and he dominated, leading 172 of the 200 laps. Let's break down everything that just happened in the clash at Bowman Gray. Hello everybody, welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host Alex Lambert, and let's break down this year's 2025 Clash, but this time at Bowman Gray Stadium. I thought it was a great event. I thought it was a great weekend with the heat races yesterday, qualifying yesterday, and then the last chance qualifier today, 75 laps. And then we had the 200 lap Clash at the Coliseum today where Chase Elliott dominated, essentially dominated, leading 172 of the scheduled 200 laps. Denny Hamlin did take the lead for a little bit at the halftime break, and after the halftime break led 28 laps, and then Tyler Reddick was actually able to lead one lap as well. So certainly this was a dominating performance from Chase Elliott. I would argue it's a pretty big statement. We'll go through the top 10. We'll talk about some drivers that had disappointing days that I wanted to see a little more out of in this clash at the Coliseum. But anyway, let's get into it. Let's talk about it. And we have to start out with Chase Elliott, the fan favorite, right? The big name, the most popular driver in NASCAR, voted over the last few years. Chase Elliott dominates at Bowman Gray Stadium. And I think this is a big statement for Chase Elliott. But the way he was able to hold off a charging Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney started in last, was clearly fast, came all the way up through the field, finished second, couldn't get past Chase Elliott. Denny Hamlin, the way Chase Elliott was able to get back by Denny Hamlin, the moves that Chase Elliott was able to make around these lap cars to keep the lead all race long, all night long, and win at Bowman Gray. I think it's impressive that Chase Elliott was able to do that at this racetrack. And I also think this is a big statement, right? We can go back to the last few years at the Los Angeles Clash at the Coliseum in LA. The winner of the Clash typically has a really good season following since we've left Daytona and gone to the quarter mile oval. I go back to the first year of the Clash. Joey Logano in 2022 wins the 2022 NASCAR Cup Championship. 2023, Martin Truex Jr. wins the Los Angeles Coliseum Clash. Martin Truex Jr. is the championship favorite the entire regular season, wins the regular season title. He had some issues in the playoffs, didn't win the championship, but ultimately was still one of the favorites every race that season. We go to last year, 2024, Denny Hamlin wins the Clash. The first half, at least, of 2024, Denny Hamlin was a contender in all races, and he made it all the way to the second to last round of the playoffs. So every year, the driver that wins this Clash race typically has a really good season. Look at the names that have won this. I mean, champions: Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, close to being a champion. Martin Truex Jr., a champion. Chase Elliott. Some big names have won at the quarter mile track over the last 4 years. This is a different quarter mile track, but still a similar layout. There were some differences we can look at between, Bowman Gray and Los Angeles. Some big differences, but still a quarter mile racetrack, the only one we go to at any form in NASCAR. So I think it's a big statement that Chase Elliott dominated this weekend, right? Was fast in practice, qualified up front, started first, led all the laps, or led 172 laps, and won the race. Big statement, I think, for Chase Elliott. We talked about him in the offseason. Can Chase Elliott come back and start winning more races? Only 1 points race win in the last 2 seasons for him, and that was at Texas early last season. So this could be a bigger year for Chase Elliott, trying to get back to winning multiple races in a season, which he hasn't done since 2022. Let's go through the entire top 10, right? There's some storylines to talk about. I mentioned Ryan Blaney, once again, started dead last, took the provisional, did not show a lot of speed throughout the weekend moving into the race, but they were able to make some adjustments, figure out some strategies. Ryan Blaney finished second today after running down Chase Elliott, and I thought that was a great, fantastic run by him. Wasn't able to get by Chase Elliott, wasn't able to pass him for the win, but ultimately made it a race, a fun race to watch. And the way he was able to go through everybody in the field and maneuver his way up to the front, get by Logano, get by Denny Hamlin, was impressive. So a nice run for Ryan Blaney, also showing a lot of speed early in the season. Once again, I know this racetrack's different. I know this is a quarter mile short track, but we do typically see the cars that are fast in the Clash at the beginning of the season are typically fast when the season starts in Daytona in a couple of weeks, and at those shorter ovals and, intermediate tracks too. Denny Hamlin, third place finish, a solid run for him. Once again, he was able to get up there and lead a little bit, but just didn't have enough for Chase Elliott. He was trying to make some moves. It looked like he found something closer to that halfway point of the race, was able to get by Elliott, make a pass on him, but once Elliott got back by him in the second half of the race, there was just nothing Denny Hamlin could do to catch up with him. But overall, a fast night for Denny Hamlin, the driver of the 11 Toyota, but just couldn't get up there. Didn't have enough speed to get the win. Joey Logano started 7th, was running in the top 5 all day long. Didn't really get knocked out of the way, was trying to get aggressive, tried to move some guys like Bubba Wallace out of the way, but Joey Logano ultimately just didn't quite have the handling, didn't quite have the speed to get up there with Hamlin, Blaney, and Chase Elliott. He was trying his best, he was trying to do all he could, but ultimately ran out of time and just didn't have the best car throughout the entire night, at least the winning car throughout the entire night for Joey Logano, but still a solid fourth place finish. Once again, no points tonight though. Bubba Wallace, nice fifth place finish for him. He was in the top 10, I think, every time I looked at the scoring pylon, so that's a solid night for Bubba Wallace, a bit of a drama-free night at least. I mean, I think he got in a little bit of a ruffle with Joey Logano, but ultimately a clean clash for Bubba Wallace, so a nice top 10 for him. Once again, no points, but a little bit of momentum on your side. A nice fifth place finish tonight in the clash. Ross Chastain, a sixth place finish. Austin Cindric was able to finish seventh, so another one of those Penske drivers. So every Penske Ford was in the top 7 tonight. Tyler Reddick actually fell back. Once again, he was one of those drivers that we thought might, in the first half, might be able to get up there and challenge Elliott, challenge Denny Hamlin for this win, but ultimately just fell back a little bit in the later stages of the race, closer to the halfway point, and just could not quite get back up through the field. Eighth place finish for Reddick, so definitely a bit disappointing there for him, I'm sure. SVG, I'm actually impressed. SVG on a quarter-mile short track oval in big, heavy NASCAR Cup stock cars to finish top 10. I know it's only a 23-car field, but to make the event, to finish in the top 10, is, I think, very impressive. This is a driver I talked about in the offseason some. I think he's going to struggle on these ovals, and I think we could see him win on some road courses. Get in the playoffs, I think, is very possible with SVG if he can win at one of these road course races, which I think it's very possible he can. But if he can run solid at these ovals, how far can SVG go? Once again, this will be his rookie season. He made the big show. I mean, a lot of pressure's on him to probably perform well with Trackhouse this year, and he's going to a lot of ovals. Most of the Cup schedule is ovals, all but, 6 races over the entire schedule. SVG, top 10. Just making the race, I think, was good for him in that 88 team over at Trackhouse. But once again, the 9th place, finishing top 10, not causing a whole lot of drama. I didn't see him in any drama. I'd have to go back and check. I don't think I saw him in any crashes, maybe a couple of bent fenders on that race car. But overall, a 9th place finish, I think, is good for SVG, the driver of the 88 Chevrolet. Chris Buescher, 17 car, finished in the 10th position, so a nice top 10 for the RFK Ford. That was the only RFK Ford that did make it. Buescher showed a lot of speed early in the weekend in the heat races, and then, of course, in the beginning stages of this race, but just didn't have enough speed to get up there and fight with Elliott, Blaney, Hamlin, those top 3 that were obviously the battle for the win all night long. So that's certainly interesting. We did have some issues. Some drivers did not have the best day. Last place for Chase Briscoe, a bit disappointing. His first show out with James Small, his first show out with the new crew chief, with the new team, Toyota, once again, joining JGR, right? Chase Briscoe goes from having, not top equipment, trying to claw his way up to winning races and get the best ride. I wanted to see a little bit of speed tonight out of that 19 JGR Toyota, and I was a bit disappointed that things went wrong. I think it was maybe a mechanical failure that ended his race early, but just didn't show a whole lot of speed. Really the entire weekend. It was great that he made the event. I want to talk about that's important. But overall, just a bit disappointing for him. They wasn't able to finish the clash tonight. Larson Byron also had issues. Larson had to claw his way in the last chance qualifier race to get into this race. He was able to do so. He was clearly, this is a Hendrick Motorsports car with Cliff Daniels as the crew chief, Kyle Larson the driver. Obviously, this car should be in the race. Didn't make it in his heat race yesterday. Made it in the last chance qualifier tonight, and ultimately just didn't have the best showing. Got in a wreck with his teammate William Byron, and it just didn't see him in the top 15 all day long. So I think it was a bit of a disappointing weekend for the driver of the number 5 car, Kyle Larson. Didn't have a lot of speed in practice or qualifying either, which is what put him in that hole to begin with. So we'll see how that evolves going into the season. I think Kyle Larson's going to be good all season long. Just a bit of a slow run this weekend at the Clash. And, some teams might not have put as much effort into this Clash as they are, the Daytona 500 coming up, or Atlanta, or some of the racetracks in the regular season where they need points. So that could also be a situation where some drivers might not perform well. That's what I'm hoping for Kyle Busch. Another, I would say, pretty bad night for Kyle Busch off the start. Got spun early on in the race. Through the first caution of the race was Kyle Busch spinning out. That didn't take long. He did make the event, which was good, unlike his teammate Austin Dillon. So not really the best weekend at all for RCR. But fortunately, Kyle Busch did end up finishing in the 15th position. Was able to recover. He went 2 laps down at one point, came all the way back up, actually finished in the 15th position. So I guess it could have been worse for Kyle Busch. But for somebody that's finished in the the top 3 in this race the last 2 years, certainly was hoping to get over that hump of finishing on the podium and actually get the win, and that just did not go well for Kyle Busch tonight. Not the best showing for the driver of the number 8 car, which is certainly disappointing. That's really it. That sort of breaks down all the main storylines after tonight's clash at the Coliseum. I thought it was exciting. I thought it was a pretty good race. I thought the crowd was really into it. I thought the broadcast was really good. I think we'll have to go back and check, but I think we saw every green flag lap on Fox tonight, which is also great. They did a lot of commercials, but it was the side-by-side commercials, which is obviously always better than, the full screen commercials under green flag. Those can be frustrating sometimes, but overall I thought the broadcast was pretty good. Thought the booth did good. The pre-race was pretty interesting to watch with some driver interviews, an interview with RC, so that was certainly interesting as well. But that's it, all I want to talk about after this clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. Thought it was great. Hope we go back next year, but I'm really looking forward now to the start of the points season, the start of the NASCAR Cup Series regular season, the Daytona 500, February 16, less than 2 weeks away now to the 2025 Great American Race, the Daytona 500. I'll obviously do a review on qualifying Wednesday night, the duels on Thursday, and of course, we'll break down everything that takes place in the Great American Race on Sunday, February the 16th. That's it. Hope you all enjoyed it. And of course, about Kyle Busch causing that first caution, let's get rowdy.